Hi, Jim here, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast. This week, I'm joined by filmmakers Chris Reading and Hillary Shakespeare. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Hello. So you guys have a film called Time Travel is Dangerous. So before I start asking you lots of questions about how it was made, can somebody give me the pitch for the film? What's it actually about?
The film is actually a mock doc about two shop owners, vintage shop owners in Muswell Hill. They're best friends, Ruth and Megan. And they run this vintage shop and they find a time machine. So they steal things from the past to sell in their vintage shop. And then obviously overuse of the machine, they get into lots of scrapes.
Right. Okay. And just so listeners can understand this properly. So Chris, you're the writer director. Hilary, you're the writer producer.
Yeah,
That's right.
So
and also with my sister Anna.
Also your sister, yeah. The first thing that instantly I see when I looked at this film is the cast. So I'll start with the cast because you've got the likes of Brian Blessed, Stephen Fry, Johnny Vegas, Jane Horrocks. That's just a few of the names you've got. So for an indie filmmaker, how the hell are you getting all these big names in your movie?
I mean, it kind of started off. We basically attached people one at a time. So we just emailed. The first people to come on board were like Sophie Thompson and Tony Way. And then once we had them, we put out a press release about it. And then when we contacted the next few people, I think like Johnny Vegas, he was like, oh, I know Sophie Thompson. I'd love to work with her again. And I think sometimes like having the cast already attached helped attract the rest of the cast. So then by the end, when we were doing the voiceovers, that's when we got Brian Blessed and Stephen Fry, because we already had the whole rest of the film and we could show them everything that we'd already done. So it kind of snowballed like by kind of attaching people, shooting a bit,
Yeah, that's a good snowball. That is a good tip actually, because I spoke to another filmmaker who did the same with Simon Callow, where he had stuff to show them. So at least these people knew, oh, look, there's something's been made. It looks quality. It looks funny. It looks interesting. So you've got more chance of signing them up. But that's really good that you got those cast attached.
Yeah, to go back to your point about, we also had a short film that Chris, and so Ruth and Megan play themselves. They're real people with a vintage shop. And they've been friends with Chris for a long time. Before me and Anna came on board, the three of them had made a short and like a bunch of other sketches and things that all that footage actually also made it into the film because it's mock doc. We could use stuff that they'd already shot. So basically when we were attaching people and when we were going out to pitch it and stuff, we kind of had a lot of material to show people already. So I think that definitely did help.
So private investment, is that you guys raising the money? Have you gone to a company who sorted it out for you?
Well, yeah, we raised the money and we grew the project bit by bit actually, because obviously we started with a short film and we attached people and then we're able to sort of show what we had to potential investors. So it did grow from where we started to where we ended up.
Yeah. So Hilary, private investors, as a producer for other filmmakers, give me some tips for dealing with them and keeping them happy and kind of keeping them on the journey with you.
It's quite hard because it's kind of a lot of it's like just knowing the right people and being in the right place at the right time. So it's like, it is like a commonly asked question, and it's not like something where you can just say, this is how you do it and then give people like an A to B. And I guess what we did that was quite unusual and really risky was when we did actually have an investor like pull out when we'd got our cast attached for a certain amount of our cast attached. And then, but we had enough to shoot like about a third of the film, and the cast that we'd attached were in that third of the film. So we actually just shot all of that without having the finance to finish the film, which is a pretty crazy thing to do. And then basically started like trying to raise funds to do the next section and did another sort of third of the film basically the same way. And so the whole film took about a year to shoot and in 3 blocks. It was quite unconventionally done. So it's not like I'd suggest anyone do what we did. So I don't know, keeping them happy. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
Would you say they were, because I've had different types of private investors before, were they heavily involved, or were they sorts of people you just kind of check in every now and again?
I guess it's kind of like people that kind of knew us and trusted us a bit, and I mean for the ones that didn't drop out. So not so much. Pretty much we were trusted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Chris, I looked back at both of your IMDb's, and and I'll talk to you, Hilary, because I've noticed you've got 2 other feature films out, which is great. But Chris, to start with you, so as a director, it looks like you've done some shorts and you've done, I don't want to call it a fan film, I don't know if that's talking it down because it looks really good, is the Alien stuff you've done before. So had that prepped you very well for a feature film, do you think?
Yeah, well, the a lot of the team who we made that Alien Containment short together, we kind of came over onto the feature, and by making shorts, obviously you're kind of growing your community of people that you're working with all the time. So and figuring out who's good to work with, who's not, and then that was a short that we made with 20th Century Fox to sort of celebrate the anniversary of Alien in
Oh wow,
2019.
Okay. Didn't realise.
That was a real good experience working with a big property and building big sets and that type of thing. It was a very quick turnaround, but it was super fun. And that kind of at that point, I think we'd already made the short. Actually, it was called The In Reason at the time for the time travel idea, and Ruth and Megan actually helped on the Alien short, which is funny. I think they did some art department things. So it was kind of just growing the team, and I think that was probably about the era when I met the Shakespeare sisters.
Right, okay. And did you know, when you were shooting that short film, was the plan always to make it a feature, or was it just its own kind of thing?
I think the short was such a good core idea that we were always trying to develop it into something. So we were shooting other sketches around the idea, other things, silly things that Ruth and Megan could go and do with the time machine. We were also thinking about maybe a TV project. But yeah, we were slow. It was slowly morphing into a feature length project, just because we thought if we kind of put our work in one direction, we will end up with a product at the end of the day.
Right, gotcha. So the other things, I saw this awesome cast. I was like, wow, it looks good. Some really cool kind of retro special effects. Do you choose those projects by, I want to make this thing, or do you consider sales and distribution in that process, and is it ever a concern?
I mean, for me, I've never considered anything other than comedy because I basically don't watch anything other than comedy. Like,
right.
Me and my sister, like, we only ever really, like romance, coming of age, like feel good stuff, basically. We do watch horrors, but only because our friends make them, and we feel bad not to, but actually I really hate being scared. So yeah, basically it was always that. But I will admit, like, it is really difficult selling comedy, and like sometimes I've wished that we were more into something easier like horror to kind of to sell on a budget, because yeah, I guess the problem with selling comedy is like you're really expected to have big names in it, and it needs to look glossy, and like the mock doc is a way around the kind of looking glossy thing. But yeah, still, like, we needed those comedians in it to kind of give it any sort of gravitas, and even trying to sell it abroad, you still get a lot of like people saying, oh, but will the comedy translate? And it's like, it's quite exhausting, to be honest. Even though we do see it, like we see it translate, we've been to festivals all around the world and heard people laughing, and I'm like, they get the jokes even if it's subtitled. But yeah, just trying to tell that to distributors or sales agents, like, it's definitely a really difficult genre to sell. So yeah.
And did you find with your 2 previous features, how were they released through a distributor, or are they self-distributed? How did you get them out there?
Yeah, they were through so like we made our first one was we made it we actually shot it a really long time ago, and then we released it in 2019, and yeah, we had a distributor to put it on platforms, and we did like a little tiny like theatrical thing where we went to maybe like 10 cinemas or whatever to promote it, but then that was just when COVID hit, so we only managed to do like a few screenings. But they were both like extremely low budget. Like our first 2, me and my sister like wrote and directed and produced them, and also and edited them, and kind of they were basically made for the budget that you'd make a short for. I mean, I say that actually that's also kind of how we did Time Travel's Dangerous, but we made those for like a really, really low budget. So it's kind of like, instead of making a short, we made a feature. So the distribution was like, it wasn't like we had to make like tons of money back. It was kind of like a calling card, or like and like that's how we learned how to make films. So yeah, we're pretty happy with how that went.
Yeah, they're both on Amazon.
Yeah.
So what was it? What are they called, just so people can check them out?
So Soundtrack to 16 is our first film. That's like a coming of age film, and then Much Ado is a Shakespeare adaptation about Much Ado About Nothing, sort of modern day take on it.
Lovely. So then another thing while I'm doing my internet searching is I'm noticing you've got the film completed and you're screening it in cinemas, doing a bit of a tour. So for other filmmakers, why did you decide to do that? And does that come at a huge cost? So why
No.
screen it in cinemas, and is it difficult to do that?
I think we just always really wanted to screen it in cinemas. I mean, we saw it as a theatrical film that was to be experienced, and I do think that like being in there with a full audience laughing at it, that's how it's supposed to be. And I don't think you get to see that much, like to go to many comedies in the cinema, and we all feel sad about that. So we just kind of passionately wanted to do a theatrical distribution. But yeah, we organized. Like, what was the other question about the organization of it?
I guess are you literally phoning cinemas up, booking them, getting people in there?
No, we had a cinema booker. Yeah.
Actually, working with a cinema booker, we found like actually super useful. Cinema booker is a freelancer who has all the contacts with the chains. This person set up a screening in central London, invited the chains along, and then we had a few chains that decided to program our film during they normally block it into like 2-week periods. So we ended up with The View, Showcase, Everyman, spread across the country and Scotland, and some in Republic of Ireland as well. So after we did that, we had to reach out independently to certain sites and organise a bit of a tour. So we sent some cast and crew along to those. There was like an investment in effort on that side because anything outside of the normal is always a little bit more effort but to add value to the release, I think it's always good. Gets you extra press, gets you extra exposure on social medias and engagement with the audience, and also is really useful when it comes to like connecting with audiences outside of London, because normally, those guys are based in London, but to do screenings in the Midlands or in Scotland or in Northern Ireland, and get out there and meet audiences who would go to an independent film, they are out there, and it was really interesting to meet those guys outside of a festival experience, because obviously we've done festivals and we always meet people who are really into sci-fi and people who are really into horror, but these people do exist out in the wild as well.
They do.
I mean, I think what made made it so well. I guess what made it so exhausting, just to talk about the theatrical thing, was that like it's so. I think I've seen it before. Like when you see other like big films do theatrical distribution, just like the amount that goes into supporting it promotionally, and if you're kind of like a low budget film like ours or like a small team, you're just trying to like keep up with that promotion. But then the good thing about having done the distribution ourselves and like doing all that stuff is we had a really tight grip on how we were spending on it. So like, we could take advantage of every little deal we could get, or like any contacts we had, or like we got this, we were on like 18 London buses or something because we got a really good deal on that. And so it's like that was the part where I was glad that we did that ourselves, because it just meant that like we could do a lot more than we would have been able to do that someone else would have done for us. Like if we had a distributor, they'd have booked cinemas and then they would have taken the load of our that weight of promotion away from us. But then on the other hand, they would have spent a lot on trying to promote it, and then that would have come out the back end, and we never, it never would have made we wouldn't have been able to make sure that it was spent in a way that we thought made sense, basically.
Yeah, and also a distributor, unless you're Mission Impossible, they're never going to be as dedicated to promoting the film as you guys are. It's awesome you managed to get on buses and stuff. That's fantastic. So what I was going to ask next was, Chris, you've got big name comedians, funny people. How on earth do you direct them to be funny when they are funny already? If that makes sense as a question.
Well, yeah, we had a good script at the end of the day going into it all, and we had quite a lengthy script compared to what would end up being in the film. We probably shot something like 150-page script. And so going into it, me, Anna and Hilary had like really honed that. So when it came down to shooting, we made sure that the script was gotten and every joke landed, and which is quite difficult sometimes because everyone wants to have fun. especially in a comedy environment. But to make sure we land all the beats of each, on a page of script, there might be 3 or 4 beats that have to land in different ways, and they can go out the window sometimes when people are shooting comedy. But we were lucky in the sense that we had like some really like experienced cast. Like a lot of them have many years of experience behind them in comedy and in drama. So, getting what was on the page was very easy, and then being able to improvise. We had some cast who were particularly good at that, and we sort of have to just trust them and give them just some time after we've gotten what's on the page. Maybe have a couple of takes and go down some avenues which they want to explore. I think if you give any good actor, particularly comedic actor, just some rope, they will normally have a good play and come back to you with something great.
Yeah. And it must be tough though, because I'm thinking with my horror hat on, if I'm shooting a horror sequence, it's very easy for me to imagine how that's going to piece together a bit of scary music. It'll be fine. When you're shooting comedy, on the other hand, I guess you've just got to have faith in that script, because you're not all sat behind the camera laughing the whole time. I'm assuming there's an element of, right, we've got to get this shot, got to get that, or are you behind the camera laughing the whole time?
We're normally, you're right. We on the day we have to really trust that we have spent all those hours going through every line, figuring out that everything has a function, and then being sure on the day that we actually do rely that it's written down, and we've done all the hard work in a lot of ways. And shooting comedy is quite a serious business in the sense of like you have to make sure you get that. Was there another question I may have missed?
Probably with me, there's probably about 5.
Whether we're laughing. I mean, we do sometimes laugh behind the monitor, but I've noticed, like with quite a lot of the comedy things we've done, like that sometimes the thing that's really funny on set, just like it's like not as funny in the camera. So I think more like just kind of, it doesn't really make a difference if you are laughing. Sometimes that's not the take. You're so sure, you're like, that's the take. And then when you look at it like in the edit, you're like, actually the other take's funnier, but we just didn't laugh because it kind of edits properly into the next bit or whatever. Yeah.
And as I mentioned, we had such a long script going into it. The actual hard work was in the edit. Like we were sat for months trying to make a 90-minute film, and when you see the film, it is very dense. Like there's a lot of dialogue. There are probably like 3 or 4 gags, either physically or in dialogue, in every minute. Like some of our cast mentioned that was the reason they did it, because there's like loads of gags in it, and it's really high gag quantity compared to what you might see in this sort of independent cinema.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I've seen some recently, went to a comedy festival, and you can really tell the ones that had honed that script, because some had kind of one joke. The whole thing was one joke. Other ones was, like you say, it's that blah, 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 blah. Keep, it's supposed to be funny. The whole thing's supposed to be funny. Keep the audience laughing. So, Chris, this was your first feature film, was it?
I like Anna and Hilary had done a really low budget sci-fi a few years ago called Somnus, and again that was like that was like my film school. I call it. I didn't go to film school, but I did know someone with a camera. We spent many weekends over, again, probably an 18-month, 2-year period, making a proper spaceship sci-fi 2001 style movie, to sort of try things out, try some techniques that we hadn't done, work with actors in a particular way that I hadn't done before. And again, I got a distribution on that. Again, the budget was so low that there wasn't a lot of pressure when we were making it. That was fun.
And what do you think was the thing, looking back on that first film you made, what do you wish you'd known when you started it? What was kind of like the biggest lesson for you from it?
I think the biggest lesson was, I think on that one I was more self-reliant. I was working on my own. I was writing, directing, doing everything more or less. And I kind of learnt the lesson that you just have to find good people to work with who you can trust to do certain things. Because actually, at the end of the day, you can't do everything very well to the highest level at the same time, just because there aren't enough hours in the day. When you're stood there, it's very difficult to rewrite a script when something's not working. But you can prepare, and you can set yourself up for success just by working with some good other writers beforehand, and like making sure that script is there. So that would be the main thing I'd say. Like, find good people and make sure that script is as good as it could possibly be.
Good advice. And then the other thing I was looking at was you've got a screening coming up as part of a summer fair. I think it's at Ali Pali, is it? So, Hilary, what is that? Did that start with the film, or did you get the film into a fair? What's the plan there?
No, that was just so after we'd done our whole like theatrical run, because the film's set in Muswell Hill and it's all shot around Muswell Hill. It's very local. A lot of locals are in the film, and locations and stuff. And Ali Pali contacted us just saying, like, we've seen how this is very local to this area, and we think it'd be a really cool opportunity to do a kind of pair it with a kind of local sellers like fair, and people can bring their also obviously Ruth and Megan sell vintage in the area because they have a real vintage shop in real life. So they're doing their vintage shop and other people like that, and there are a lot of creatives as well that are bringing their art down to show. We're doing a little art exhibition as well, so it's like it's all about the film. It's like it's an Ali Pali event about time travel is dangerous basically, but it's making it more of a community event. So there's stalls and games and musicians and some art, and then we're doing 2 screenings of the film as well.
Brilliant.
So,
And then the other thing I saw was you've done quite well with festivals. Now, I guess I'll keep this one on you, Hilary. So above and beyond having a good film, what else can you do to help your film festival strategy when you're trying to get into film festivals?
You mean about a specific? I mean, I would say just go for you kind of just got to submit to a lot. I think because there's always going to be like a hit rate, but the earlier you get, I mean, there's obviously the ones that require premieres that you kind of want to do, but you don't know if it's harder to get into, less likely to get in. So I mean, you kind of got to do that first and just wait a little bit. But then I guess like there's the next round where you're kind of like a sort of level below, your kind of Sundance type festival, but like, is really good for your genre. And then I think generally once you get into one of those, then they start to follow suit. I think it's like kind of like you're kind of holding to see what the best premiere you can have is. And then once you like pick your premiere, then everything else kind of like starts falling into place. So I guess be really careful about where you pick your premiere, but not so careful that you wait years and don't ever go anywhere. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of festivals do like watch each other, and they see like, oh, you've been to all these other festivals, so, and I believe I trust in their programming, so it just starts getting easier once you start getting into them. But yeah, apart from that, I guess just apply to a lot of them, because like you're never going to get into all of them, so
increase your hit rate. And Chris, so you guys have you talked about you've just been to a festival you guys run, so from the other side of that, what are you looking for when you're looking at films to be included in those festivals?
I mean, our festival's very small. We only started it, we've just been doing it 2 years. So, but it was partly for fun because we have a lot of filmmaker friends, and we had access to a cinema in Greece. So we were like, this would be a cool thing to do, basically. But I guess like seeing it from the other side, I want to program films that like, I think people, just will look at it and be like, that's a really great program. Like all those films I want to see. And also the filmmakers that will like come along and like have a fun time and build the atmosphere of the festival as well. Like I think like having filmmakers that are going to come, it makes it, and that are fun when they come, like people I like. It's like the ideal. So I mean, not all the filmmakers that come are our friends. Like we've made friends there, by people saying, oh, I'm gonna, we like their film. We email with them a bit, they're coming down, and then I'm like, this is great because now we've got a whole bunch of new friends. Yeah, I think just people that you want to spend time with and whose films you think make you like a really good quality and also seem like cool people, basically. That's what I want for that festival. But that's a small festival, so it's not probably what everyone thinks. But
yeah. And so Chris, I'll go back to you for this one. So what's the plan now? So after post all these theatrical screenings, you've done your thing at Ali Pali. What's next? What are you going to do with the film next?
So our Ali Pali event sort of coincides with our UK digital release. So on the 29th of September, we are available on all the usual platforms. And then we are thinking ahead to our US release. So we have a US distributor for our release in November. We had very good reactions from audiences when we did American festivals over there. So we're pretty happy about being able to sort of broaden the audience in America.
Lovely. And is the so have you got a separate distributor for UK, or are you handling UK yourself?
Yeah,
UK
separate,
we yeah,
with TMP.
yeah,
right. And then go on.
yeah, UK was we've with TMP, and then in the US we have Level 33 as our distributor in North America, and we're also talking to now lots of other countries' distributors about releasing it in other territories.
Lovely. So no sales agent, direct to distributors. Any tips on how to deal with distributors direct?
I mean, I guess we go to a lot of film markets anyway. We go to Cannes every year. So, I mean, we know a lot of distributors anyway, like people that we've met over the years. And people recommend you. We also know a lot of sales agents that are friends as well. And people will recommend you to people and be like, oh, this person's cool. I think with this, actually, we just looked up similar films to ours and saw who distributed them and then just got in touch with them. So we're not even sure. I think that's how we met Level 33 in the first place. Yes, Mitch is emailing a lot of people, same as festivals. Really, it's another hit rate thing. Just get in contact with loads, and then some of them will like it.
Cool. And are you going to do a physical release, or is it all going to be online?
I think we are.
In America, yeah, we've got it's like a day and date one, so we're coming out the same day as we're in cinemas. But yeah.
Wicked. Well, I'll make sure I put links to everything in the description to this. I'm looking forward to seeing it. It looks really good. You've got a really good cast. And like I say, I love the look of it. It just doesn't look like anything I've seen before. So really excited to see it. And thanks very much for chatting. Thanks for listening. I hope that was useful. If you're interested in hearing from another filmmaker who's made a kind of dark comedy that's been released, you could listen to How to Get a Famous Actor in Your 30k Micro Budget Movie with Mitchell Tolliday. In the episode, Mitchell talks about how he put his project together and also how he managed to persuade Simon Callow to appear in it. See you on the next one.